I personally have a big problem with the whole forever punishment concept of felonies, because you do your time, you paid your debt to society, but you come out with a felony on your record, which means that someone who has apartment buildings could legally not rent to you because you're a felon. Now, if you're black or Mexican or Chinese, they would get in big trouble to say, I'm not renting to you because of this. But they can say, no, you're a felon, I don't want to rent to you, totally legal. Same thing with a job. You can't discriminate over race or religion, but you can say, I don't want to hire you because you're a felon. So ultimately, a lot of these guys will come out, they can't get a job. So they start doing illegal things to get money. They can't get an apartment. So they shack up with a woman, but it's her apartment or her house under her rules. At any point, she can kick them out. So now you're feeling constantly under pressure. You're not feeling like a real man. And you start doing things that often end you back in prison again. When you look at the way the legal system is and the prison system is, if you were the governor and you could make some tweaks to the system, what would they be?
If I could make some tweaks to the system, I would personally go down to LA, Oakland, these hoods, and I would get to the root of the problem. The root of the problem being the youth, right? The youth. And actually, I'm not talking about building these youth homes or these basketball courts or whatever. I'm telling them like, hey, look, man, this is your future. These are your options, right? And if you go down this path, this is what's going to happen, right? Here's your future, and show them exactly where you're going to be living in a cell. You're going to be eating soups. You're going to be celled up with Bubba, transgender. It's going to be you're probably going to get murdered, especially these days, right? Or you can channel your, again, testosterone to go to the military or some other passion that you have, right? Get out of this culture. Get out of this mindset. This is a very destructive culture, a very destructive mindset. I agree with letting lifers out of prison, but the caveat to that, whether it was AB 109 or Prop 57, is the way they did it was wrong. They opened the floodgates. And when they opened the floodgates, you had parolees shooting it out with police officers out on the streets and murdering police officers. So it was the good and with the bad. I talked to a lot of former incarcerated inmates. I talked to a lot of former inmates that did 20, 25, almost 30 years. And I have respect for them. They have respect for me. And we see the system for what it is. I would even work with them and say, hey, I need your help, right? Because I can't solve a problem by myself. And crimes do need to be, like Mayor Gascon, the DA here in LA, light on crime or give them 20 chances. That's not the answer. A happy median, right? Between treating them like absolute dog shit to not punishing them at all. Can we have some common decency or some common ground? With hope, meaning, hey man, incentives. If you behave, you get this. If you don't behave, you get this. Right now, it's not that. It's upside down world.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like, especially someone who's 18, 19, 20 years old, you're going to make a lot of dumb mistakes. Mm-hmm. We all have. I could have been in situations where I could have killed somebody.
Correct.
Based on a set of events that ultimately didn't go that way. And, I bought a kilo of cocaine in my 20s thinking that, this is the thing to do. And luckily I didn't get caught, but I could have gotten 5-10 years for it. Who knows? We've all done dumb stuff, and I feel like most people deserve another chance, even if those situations end up in murder. Like this guy named Curtis Wall Street Carroll, who I interviewed recently. He's like a stock whiz who taught a lot of other people stocks in prison. He ended up, it was a robbery when he was like, I think 18, 19 years old, and the guy got killed. He ended up doing 30-something years in prison. Yes, it's horrible the person got killed, but is 30 years really necessary to punish someone over something you do as a teenager that you didn't necessarily intend to do? You see what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying. You're talking about like what would be a appropriate sentence for the crime.
Yes.
Well, with that being said, I've talked to plenty of guys that have done 25 years for murder, and they are out now, and they are doing just fine. They are thriving. They are contributing to their community, and I think I owe that to them. because, that stigma also has to change. Oh, you were in a prison, you're a piece of shit. That's not true. That's not true. And you're right. I've done plenty of shit that I should be in prison for and or caught up for. That also needs to change, right? But again, it's that happy median. Like, hey, I'm not like Jeffrey Dahmer, right? I'm not going to be your best friend, Jeffrey Dahmer. Right?
I don't think Jeffrey should have gotten out.
Correct.
I mean, he got killed,
right?
So there really was no question
but
about
that. There
Yeah.
is that. It's tricky.
Yeah. Listen, if you're eating people,
correct,
you should probably stay in prison for the rest of your life. Okay? If you're raping kids,
right,
you should probably be in prison
correct,
for the rest of your life. If you're 19 and you have sex with a 17-year-old, okay, I mean, I guess technically it's illegal, but, you guys could be going to the same high school together. And, is it really something you should end up ruining the rest of your life for because you're dating someone who's technically, 6 months younger than you should be, and you're damn near the same age.
Right.
It's a situation where, why do you think it does work in Norway and it doesn't work here?
Because that is a simple question. That is because they don't got Bloods, Crips, Norteños, Sureños, Mexican Mafia, Nuestra Familia, BGF.
So it's the gangs.
The gangs, the culture, community. California already differs from the rest of the states, let alone a whole nother country. Yeah, there's something to be said about California, and people have taken notice.
But you have gangs in every state. Yes, you have Crips and Bloods out here and Norteños and Sureños out here, but
also the racial segregation.
Gangster disciples and black disciples all through the Midwest, and especially in Chicago. You got Latin kings out there. It's
one thing I've seen that California does that the rest of the states doesn't is the inmates racially segregate themselves.
Huh.
Yeah, so they roll with their own race, and I believe that. I've heard other people talk that comes with good and bad. I see the good in that because you're not having other races victimize another individual. It's everybody they're victimizing their own.
Yeah, I mean, I interviewed this guy Pee Wee. He's a former Hells Angels president.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
And I asked him why there's never been black Hells Angels members, and he said that a lot of the Hells Angels population is in prison. And if a race riot breaks out, black Hells Angels members would be pulled in two directions. They would have to side with the blacks, but then there's Hells Angels, so they just choose to eliminate this potential problem. Were you locked up with the biker, not locked up, but were you a CO with biker gangs and so forth?
They weren't like their own group. They ran with their race. I did see Mongols. I did see Hells Angels. They're not, well, from my experience, I didn't see a bunch of them. Handfuls here and there.
Okay, so they would just kind of go with the whites.
I mean, and I could tell who they were because of their tattoos, their visible tattoos.
Yep. Now, you have your own YouTube channel now, The Prison Guard.
Yeah.
When you started to really go public with a lot of this information, because you're not really supposed to be saying all this stuff, right? When you sign up,
you're not supposed
in law
to.
Enforcement, you're not supposed to. There's the blue wall of silence. While
employed, correct. While employed, that's a caveat.
Okay.
That's why I resigned. I had to resign to be able to do this.
Okay. Do you get pushback from other law enforcement people of you exposing all this stuff?
No, I get encouragement. I get encouragement from law enforcement officers, former inmates, and the family members of inmates, because I keep it honest and neutral of what is actually happening within the system.
Yeah. I mean, why do you think there's this blue wall of silence overall? And do you think that this ultimately hurts law enforcement?
Oh, what I think is, like I just mentioned, that the policy in itself, there's no way I could have remained employed and spoken out, because the truth of the matter is if somebody is employed and they speak out, they will get fired. They will get fired. Maybe not fired for the actual act of speaking out, but you better believe that administration will be targeting and harassing and retaliating and watching your every single move until you mess up, and then they're going to crucify you. That's how that corruption works.
Okay, so if you saw a fellow CO smuggling a kilo of cocaine and you report him, then you would eventually lose your job yourself.
No, it's when you speak out against the grain. It's when you go against the grain, the administration. It's when you go against the grain.
Okay, so if you spoke out against the warden
Correct.
while being employed, has anyone ever done that? Have any COs actually spoken out against wardens?
It doesn't end well for them. It doesn't end well for them. I had to resign to do it. It's not. You're gonna get fired. You're gonna get fired.
Do you ever see COs actually put hits out on other inmates?
Not hits like you're thinking hits like, hey, take this dude out and freaking either kill him or take him out back. It's more so like, if it were to happen, right? It's figuratively speaking.
Mm-hmm.
If a male inmate masturbated in front of a female correctional officer and disrespected her that way. Well, in the old days, they would clean up, they would police up their own. Hey, handle that, right? Take care of that issue. Clearly, it's not okay to be masturbating to a female cop. Handle that. And they would take care of their own.
Meaning the COs would beat up the inmate.
No, you tell the rest of the inmates, hey, take care of that. And the inmates will take care of their other inmate. Or, and then again, it's like leverage, right? If you don't handle that, everybody's going to pay for this. It's kind of, right? This is a prison mentality, and it's a vicious freaking cycle.
Well, Hector Bravo, man, I appreciate you coming in. It's definitely illuminating in terms of what happens behind the walls, because I've interviewed a lot of inmates or people that have gone in and out. Like I said, X-rated, who did 26 years.
Yeah.
Did more years in than he did out.
Right.
But it's interesting to see how tied in the COs are into the whole culture of it all. It's almost like they're part of this story. You can't have the things that happen, all the crimes and all the craziness, without the COs being complicit in some of this stuff. I mean, do you hope that in the future that it is more by the book and COs are not involved in this type of thing? Or do you think that just because of the way the culture is set up, it's always going to be like that?
What I wish is for the administrators and the managers at the top, that's where the change really needs to happen, to lead by example. Because right now they are not leading by example. It's more do as I say, not as I do. Accusing them of violating policy, and they're the ones actually violating policy. Putting the inmates in harm's way by mixing them with their enemies on purpose, which was going to result in murders, and has already.
I mean, I looked up, there was, in 2023, a former warden was sentenced for sexual abuse of 3 female inmates. Do wardens ever get busted, or does it always get hidden?
They usually get told to retire peacefully and ride off into the sunset and collect their retirement.
So you've seen this happen?
Numerous times.
And what do they usually get caught with before they have to retire?
Sleeping with their secretary, impregnating their secretary, embezzling funds. This one sleeping with their inmates. Using money from the prison to go and fix up their house, buy some nice tile. It's wild.
Yeah, I mean, this guy here, Ray J. Garcia from Merced, was sentenced to 70 months.
Was that a federal prison?
Federal prison.
Yeah, that's federal. Oh, there was a warden. There was a warden in Mule Creek area. He got fired, and the FBI came and got him because he was switching price tags on snowboards and doing just, I don't understand why these people do this type of stuff.
It's all people, man. Regardless of your position, you're still a human. You're still a man.
While we're on the subject, another reason why I left is because it became awkward for me, right? I saw that the managers were more unethical than the inmates we were watching.
Really?
That's the truth. The truth is I was actually having decent conversations and respectable conversations with inmates. And they weren't legitimately, they weren't really at the time trying to hurt me. And I could say that now, but my administration was really gunning for me and those near me for doing the right thing.
Mm. Well, Hector, man, I appreciate you coming in and sharing your story, man. And, make sure everyone checks out your YouTube channel.
Thank you.
That's what it is. Until next time.
Cool.
Peace.